Good question. So for those of you curious what I'm answering, in the description there's a link to the question I'm answering. So there's a few different things I'd like to point out, or some things to consider. So the first one is that I like to look at growth-driven design as like the Ferrari that's going to get you to where you need to be, but you still need gas for that Ferrari to run on, and that's what inbound marketing and inbound sales are. And so if you kind of think about it that way, kind of like Trish mentioned, inbound marketing really is that fuel to the fire that really gets people to your site in the first place. So in an ideal world, you'd have both. It's kind of like the 1 + 1 = 3 effect, where you can really focus your time on growth-driven design, on providing a great user experience, providing great marketing assets, and providing a high-converting website. And then you also can be generating content and all kinds of stuff to drive even more people there. The other thing to think about, so I hear this a lot where agencies are like, oh, well, we're doing inbound marketing and we do some conversion rate optimization along with that. And I really question on what extent they're doing, because conversion rate optimization in itself is can be an extremely time-intensive project. So unless you have someone on a really big retainer, where you're running really like doing scientifically driven experiments and really focusing on a lot of the core bigger pieces that go into conversion optimization. Like what I end up finding, and I'm not saying this necessarily about you, but in general what I find a lot of people do is they kind of just look at things and just guess what they should do, and they kind of just throw things out there and play around with it. And the reality is unless you specifically have a team focused on that and you're really working on improvements, it's kind of like, I feel like conversion rate optimization kind of gets lost in the mix of all the other things you have going on in your inbound programs. So this is nice because, of course, growth-driven design puts an emphasis on that and puts a team and a budget behind that versus like, oh, we'll try and just stick that in as something we do after we do all the other stuff that comes along with inbound. The other thing to consider is that growth-driven design isn't necessarily all 100% focused on conversion rate optimization. So like one of the buckets is going to be conversion rate optimization. Another bucket is usability. So looking at like navigations, looking at how blogs are categorized and how people are searching and navigating through the site and what devices they're on. So it's about creating a better user experience. And so that's kind of a piece of it. Another piece is personalization. So if you're a HubSpot user or your clients are HubSpot users, using things like smart content to tailor that experience based off of previous actions, based off of geographic location, interests, whatever those things are, but about personalizing the site as well for a better user experience. Again, both those things indirectly tie back to conversions, but I think aren't necessarily mutually exclusive with those. And then the last bucket too is creating marketing assets. So thinking things about tools or thinking about how we can create amazing resource sections that just drives tons of people. So I always use Marketing Grader as HubSpot's tool. That's a huge asset for us. Or Moz has a Google algorithm change history log that drives tons of links and tons of stuff. So that's like a marketing asset they've built as a part of what you could build for growth-driven design, which doesn't necessarily directly relate to conversion rate optimization as well. So you kind of have those different buckets, so just keep that in mind as well. And the last thing I'd like to mention when talking to clients is there's two benefits to growth-driven design. When you look at it from the shoes of your client, there's kind of two value props. And the first one is the results, right? So that's kind of what we're talking about here, driving a better user experience, more impact, more value for the user, more conversions, all of that, through continuous improvement and like a user-guided journey. The other thing is that it mitigates and minimizes all of the risks associated with traditional website redesigns. So the huge upfront cost, the amount of time it takes to get the thing out there, the fact that when you launch a site you don't really know exactly how well it's going to perform, you're just kind of guessing and making a hypothesis on what's going to perform well, and then the fact that it sits for 1.5 to 2 years with very little core updates to the site itself. Maybe some blogs and some of the stuff you're doing on inbounds gets added to the site, some new landing pages and all that, but the actual core of the site has very minimal updates. So all of those risks are things that growth-driven design helps mitigate, and that's a value for using that system over traditional. So like even if you look at the results you end up getting, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get the exact same results in terms of conversion, blah, 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 with one system versus the other, those other factors are a value add to that using growth-driven design. So some food for thought. Love the discussion. Hopefully that sparks some other questions or some other ideas, but keep it going, and hopefully we'll respond with some more stuff.